Mega Evolution is back, and through Pokemon Champions and Legends ZA, it's better than it's ever been. But to understand why this comeback matters, we have to go back to where it all started, and figure out where it all went wrong. Because while Mega Evolution had a crazy rise, it also had a heavy fall. It's 2013 and Pokemon X and Y are about to launch, the first mainline Pokemon games in full 3D, and Game Freak drops a trailer that breaks the internet. Mewtwo, a legendary Pokemon mid-battle, suddenly transforms into an all-new form, something we've never seen before, something more powerful, and they called it Mega Evolution. And the response was immediate, because this wasn't just Pokemon's first battle gimmick, this was an answer to a question that every Pokemon had been asking since they were 8 years old. What if my favorite Pokemon got one more evolution? Because that's really what Mega Evolution was. Every kid who ever drew a fake 4th stage evolution in the back of a notebook just got it canonized by Game Freak themselves. And the first wave of Mega Pokemon delivered. Mega Charizard X, Mega Gardevoir, Mega Gengar, Mega Lucario, they were instant icons. Pokemon you'd seen 1,000 times suddenly transformed into something that felt new again. Mega Evolution didn't just make strong Pokemon stronger either, it revived dozens of forgotten ones. Mawile, Kangaskhan, Sableye, Banette, Pinsir, Houndoom, Manectric, Pokemon that had been competitively and culturally irrelevant for over a decade suddenly mattered. Mawile went from being an irrelevant joke of a Pokemon to a genuine threat, and Kangaskhan, a Gen 1 leftover that nobody thought about, became one of the most dominant Pokemon in the entire franchise. That was the magic. This became a second chance of redemption for Pokemon that the series had forgotten about. And the lore worked too. In Kalos, Mega Evolution was tied to the bond between trainer and Pokemon. The idea that this transformation was the result of a connection so deep that it broke the rules of biology. The whole franchise is about bond between humans and Pokemon, and now there was a battle mechanic that literally embodied it. Then came 2014, and Pokemon and Mega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire pushed it even further. Mega Sceptile, Mega Salamence, Mega Metagross, Mega Rayquaza. The Delta episode storyline literally hinged on Mega Evolution as a plot device. It didn't even feel like a battle gimmick at this point in time. It more so felt like the franchise's identity, that Mega Evolution was the future of Pokemon, not just in terms of the gameplay, but also in terms of the story. For about a year and a half, Mega Evolution was untouchable, but inevitably, the cracks started showing. The first major issue being that the designs of these Pokemon were never as strong as we initially thought. This is the one that took years for the fanbase to admit out loud. When Mega Evolution first dropped, the novelty was doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Everything was new, every Mega reveal was a moment, and when you're hyped, you're not analyzing, you're reacting. So the early Megas got a free pass that, in hindsight, a lot of them probably didn't deserve. Because once the dust settled, once the hype wore off and people actually started looking at these designs, a pattern emerged. A lot of them looked like childhood drawings. Mega Garchomp's arm blades, Mega Mewtwo's X's weird arms and legs, Mega Glalie with a comically broken jaw, Mega Charizard X basically was just a fan service Mega that every 4-year-old boy wanted to see. It wasn't an issue with X and Y or ORAS, the problem was the design philosophy itself was shaky from the start, and the novelty masked it. Too many spikes, too many fangs, too much what if this Pokemon but edgy. And honestly, that criticism wasn't wrong. The core idea of Mega Evolution is take a Pokemon and push it to its logical extreme, got executed more like take a Pokemon and add stuff to it. There were exceptions, sure, Mega Absol, Mega Mawile again, Mega Pidgeot, all held up, but for every design that worked, there were 2 or 3 that didn't, and we just didn't see it at the time because everything was too new and too exciting to question. The designs didn't get worse over time, they were always inconsistent. We just stopped being distracted by the newness after some time to notice. This second problem is a competitive one, and that's that the same 5 Pokemon won every time. Here's the casually friendly version of a competitive issue. Out of nearly 50 Mega Evolutions, only a small handful were actually viable. Most Megas sat on the shelf gathering dust. Mega Banette, Mega Camerupt, Mega Glalie, almost nobody used them. Does anyone even know that Audino has a Mega? And the ones that were good, they were too good. Mega Kangaskhan was so powerful that was basically on every single competitive Pokemon team, which led to the most boring competitive seasons ever. Mega Blaziken and Smogon rules, I think, got banned almost immediately, and was pretty much never heard or seen from again. And once again in Smogon, Mega Rayquaza was so broken that it forced the creation of an entirely new ban list above the Uber's tier, a tier called Anything Goes. Like, if If that's not broken, then I don't know what is. So you have this weird situation. The roster looked huge, nearly 50 megas, but the actual playing field was tiny. Maybe 5 or 6 megas dominated everything, with the aforementioned 3, the primal legendaries, and Pokemon like Mega Gengar. I'd argue less, but the rest were dead weight or just weaker megas than these guys. Which leads to the last big issue. You basically had to give every legendary Pokemon a mega with the way things were going. Mega Mewtwo X and Y, Mega Rayquaza, Primal Groudon, and Primal Kyogre, which, let's be honest, were just megas with a different name. The mechanic that started as a way to revive forgotten Pokemon ended up making the strongest Pokemon in the franchise even stronger. The redemption arc story got hijacked. Megas weren't lifting the underdogs up anymore, they were giving the heavyweights another belt. Like, why on earth did we need to give Latios and Latias a mega, and the same mega at that? We could have skipped this entirely. By the end of Generation 6, Mega Evolution had a problem that the fanbase wouldn't fully name for years. It was a great idea buried under bad execution. Too many megas and too few that mattered. Designs that felt like fanfiction, and a power gap that was breaking competitive play in half. Game Freak knew it, and in 2016, they tried to fix it. Keyword, tried. After this major blunder from Game Freak's end, Mega Evolution didn't really exist anymore. It got replaced 3 times by 3 different gimmicks, and every single one of them failed in a different way. Z-moves were Game Freak's first attempt to fix the mega problem. The pitch was simple. Instead of giving certain Pokemon a permanent power boost, which had created all those balance issues, give every Pokemon a one-time super move. This in turn would keep Pokemon balanced. No broken outliers, and Z-moves were like the everyone gets one answer to Mega Evolution. The problem? This undoubtedly was the most broken gimmick ever known to man. Not only were they kind of boring with the same animation every single time, with nothing new to show for it, whereas with Mega Evolution, it might have been the same form change, but you could change their playstyle with the Mega Evolution. But literally, this made the game so much worse. Z-moves became a nuke button for any super fast, super strong Pokemon. With the click of a button, you just erase one of your Pokemon's team members, effectively making battles a 5v5. And there were definitely optimal Pokemon that could use Z-moves better than the others, so we once again ran into the same problem of making broken Pokemon even more broken here, but much worse. Megas were technically still in the game, but completely sidelined. No new ones, no story focus, and they just were kind of there. The mechanic that defined the last generation suddenly became an afterthought, and that not only made the mechanic feel worse, but in my opinion, it also hurt the lore of the Pokemon world because, again, it felt like the entirety of Gen 6 was building up for Mega Evolution to be the new lore focus. Then Sword and Shield came along and did the unthinkable. It removed Mega Evolution entirely, and in its place, Dynamax. This time, the pitch was different. Dynamax tried to again be something that every Pokemon could do, but instead of a one-shot nuke, it was a temporary buff. Your Pokemon gets bigger and gets a massive HP boost, gets access to powerful new moves for 3 turns, then goes back to normal. On paper, it was the most balanced gimmick of the 3, as it could be played offensively for big knockouts, but the HP doubling also made it a defensive tool. You could Dynamax to survive a hit, set up weather, and then go back to normal. That kind of flexibility was something that Megas and Z-moves never had. And with Gigantamax, you could argue Dynamax was a combination of Z-moves and Megas, since every Pokemon got them, but certain Pokemon did get special forms. Were these forms as beloved as Megas? No, but I guess they tried. But it still didn't land. The competitive community was split down the middle. Smogon banned Dynamax from singles entirely, calling it too unpredictable and too powerful. Official Nintendo tournaments kept it, and pros learned to work with it, but casual fans just didn't connect with it. A regular Pokemon getting bigger doesn't have the same identity as a regular Pokemon transforming into a new form. And Gigantamax, the part that was designed to scratch the Mega itch, was locked into a small handful of species. Only around 30 Pokemon ever got G-Max forms, and most of them weren't even memorable. Compared to the nearly 50 Megas that were still memorable, this felt pretty limited. And the final battle gimmick that we have before Mega Evolution's return is Terastallization. And this one is the most interesting failure, because it almost worked. Terra was actually well designed. Every Pokemon could change its type mid-battle, opening up wild team building possibilities. The competitive scene embraced it. Pros loved it. From a pure game design standpoint, Terra might be the most balanced gimmick in this series, because it was the most versatile both offensively and defensively. But casually, it still wasn't Mega Evolution. A Pokemon putting on a glowing crystal hat isn't the same as a Pokemon transforming again into a new form. there was no spectacle. Terra was elegant, it was fair, it was strategically deep, but it didn't have what Megas had. Here's the pattern. Each replacement gimmick was Game Freak trying to solve one specific problem Megas created. Z-Boost tried to fix exclusivity, Dynamax tried to fix complexity, and Terra tried to fix the balance. And each one solved its piece of the puzzle while losing the thing that made Megas matter to casual fans in the first place: the transformation, the spectacle, the feeling of this is my favorite Pokemon, but more. By 2023, it had almost been a decade since the last new Mega Evolution. Most of the fan base had quietly accepted that Megas were never coming back. And then Game Freak announced Pokemon Legends ZA. When ZA was first revealed, despite all the previous issues with Mega Pokemon, most fans were excited to see them again. And the reception to the return was super positive. A game set in Kalos 2, the region where it all began, full circle with a direct sequel to the games that started everything. There was a small group of fans, including myself, that were nervous of these new Pokemon because the last thing I wanted was edgy designs for the sake of being edgy, and a stale competitive metagame, especially since Scarlet and Violet did a good job making the competitive scene more viable and accessible to the public. Not only that, but making sure that the scene had so much variety in the Pokemon that you could use. But then ZA actually came out, and almost immediately you could tell that things had changed. The most obvious thing to note is that right away you could tell that the design philosophy had matured. Compare a ZA Mega to an Oras or X and Y Mega, and the difference is obvious. The new Megas look purposeful. Each one has a clear visual concept, an idea behind it, not just a checklist of features added on. They don't look like the edgier version of a base Pokemon. They look like the same Pokemon pushed to a logical extreme. There's a maturity to designs you didn't see in Generation 6. These new designs felt like they were made for kids and adults at the same time. Not fanfiction or DeviantArt designs, but actual creative direction. ZA also didn't try to give a Mega Evolution to every popular Pokemon. They picked carefully. Some choices were obvious, like the Kalos starters getting their long overdue Megas, Dragonite and Zygarde getting Megas, but some were genuine surprises. Mega Drampa, Mega Phalanx, Mega Scolipede, even Mega Starmie. The point isn't who got picked. The point is that every new Mega felt like a deliberate, creative decision. On top of this, in ZA and now Champions, almost every new Mega has a role. They're not all top tier, but based on how the game is going so far, they for the most part all seem viable in some context. That's a massive design philosophy shift. Game Freak finally figured out that the goal isn't to make every Mega the strongest. The goal is just to make every Mega useful. And then the Mega Dimension DLC came out and kind of doubled down on both aspects of the ZA Mega design philosophy. We got more uniquely designed Megas and more what seemed to be competitively viable Megas. Like, Mega Scovillain is currently dominating the scene. ZA wasn't just a return, it was a course correction. After 8 years of replacements, Game Freak finally understood what Mega Evolution was supposed to be the first time around. But understanding it in a single player game is one thing. The real test was always going to be the competitive scene, the place where Mega Evolution had originally broken in half, and thankfully it held up. The classic Megas are still there, Charizard Y, Gengar, Lucario, all the icons, but they're not the only options anymore. The new Megas earned their place in the meta, and have done so in a way where they keep the versatility and viability similar to the roster of metagame Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet. That's the redemption. Not just that Mega Evolution came back, but those casual fans who missed the spectacle, they got it back, and the competitive players who wanted balance, they got that too. Game Freak finally managed to thread the needle. Mega Evolution is a story of how Game Freak almost lost something great by not understanding what made it great. Spent 8 years trying to replace it with none of them filling the hole, and then after almost a decade, finally figuring out the answer wasn't to replace it, it was just to do it right this time. We're watching the redemption happen in real time, and Champions is barely a month old. The meta is still settling, and new Megas are still getting tested. We still don't know which of these new Mega designs will become the next Mega Lucario or anything, but for the first time since 2014, that question feels exciting again. Mega Evolution is back, and I'm happy to say it's earned its return, and the future is looking bright for the mechanic. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe, and if you want to see what it's like to have red in every Pokemon region, then check out this video here, or if you want to learn about the Pokemon manga, then check out this video here. Thanks to all the members for supporting the channel, and thank you so much for watching.